Hey guys, it's Jason with the Boardgame Mechanics, and today we're going to take a look at the newest game from James Ernest called The Island of Dr. Lucky. The Island of Dr. Lucky is a 2 to 8 player game, the third in the Dr. Lucky trilogy. There's Kill Dr. Lucky, Save Dr. Lucky, and now The Island of Dr. Lucky. And in this one, players are on an island with Dr. Lucky, and there's also a cat roaming around that's going to distract the players in certain spaces. And there's also hazards you can throw to other players. There's an airplane that lets you move from one space to another in one movement, like they're adjacent. There are other spaces that let you draw cards if you have 3 cards or less. Other than that, the game plays similar to Kill Dr. Lucky, but the new additions are nice. So let's go down to the table and see how they work. Okay, so here is a game of The Island of Dr. Lucky set up for a 3-player game. So let's go over the setup real quick, and then we'll get into how the game plays. So to set it up, you're going to take Dr. Lucky, which is this pawn right here, and he's going to start at Sunset Beach, number 15. All the players, which will be represented by these pawns, they're going to match the color card. So these players will start off at Castello Feliz, and a cat, which is this black pawn right here, will start off at the observatory. Each player is going to pick a color. So in this case, the green player is this guy. They have no special power. They have some flavor text though, and they have some sections down here for move and attack, which I'll get into in a little bit. And in a 3-player game, each player is going to be dealt 7 cards, which I have done. All right, now let's go over the board a little bit real quick. Dr. Lucky is going to move in numerical order, so he always moves from 15, he'll move to the next number, so on and so forth around the board. Players at the beginning of the game can move 1 space, so any space, 1 adjacent, anything that's touching. And at any time, instead of moving, you can move the cat to any other space on the board. And if someone's in that space, they cannot see the surrounding area. So this player could not see any of these areas. And that'll come into play when we're trying to kill Dr. Lucky or throw hazards on some opponents later. And there are a couple other special places. Any place that has the building, which has the cards, means if Dr. Lucky goes there and anybody has 3 cards or less, they can draw a card. Any place that has the airplane means that you can move from one airplane to another in one move. And those are the only 2 other special places. There are some other spaces that have, you can see each place has a special little symbol. So the forests have trees, the water areas have water. Those are going to come into handy with the new mechanism in this game called hazards, where you can throw hazards at other players to kind of just make them get rid of some of their luck cards to make it easier to kill Dr. Lucky in the future. But again, I'll go over some of that when I'm playing. And then that's all set up. Let's get going. All right, so if you played Dr. Lucky before, a lot of the gameplay is the same, except for the hazards, and movement is a little easier. There's no cards that let you move. You can just move 1 space away, but as other things happen, you may be able to move a little farther. Okay. So let's look at a couple cards. So this is a weapon card. It has a value of 1. And it has some cool flavor text, like a cool name. And if you're in the Castello Feliz, which is where we're all starting, it'll be worth 4. So it's a 1 weapon, but it could be worth 4. So that's a weapon card. Here's also a weapon card, but this is going to have clovers on it. Clovers are how you're going to foil murder attempts and hazards. So say someone played a murder attempt of 2, I could play this card and it would foil it because it has 2 clovers. There are also failure cards, which are just like this. They have no other special ability. They just have some kind of clover and a cool little phrase and some cool Dr. Lucky pictures. And here's the new card that's new in this version of the game, and this is a hazard. All right, so what this means is if no one can see me, basically when you're trying to kill Dr. Lucky, you need to make sure that you're not in line of sight of anyone. Hazards work the same way. So as long as no one can see me, I could throw a hazard on a player that's in the mountains. So say this green player was up here in the mountains and the yellow player was down here. They could play this card on the purple player. Now, the way these work are you either have to give the player who's throwing the hazard at you a card from your hand, or you can play clovers equal to the value. So in this case, you need to play 3 clovers to discard this. The player that plays it then gets to play it face down and add it under their move section of their board, and now they can move 2 spaces each time instead of 1. So every hazard you play is going to help boost up your movement. And every time you do a murder attempt, either using a weapon or nothing, it's a weapon is actually going to move up your attack. So each subsequent attack is going to be 1 strength higher. So that's essentially how you play the game. Now let's play through a couple rounds just so we can see the full mechanisms. I'm not going to play the whole game because it'll take a bit, but you can basically see the movement, how Dr. Lucky moves, and all the cards. So first player is green. So these are green cards right here, which is what I was just showing you, the example cards. In a 3-player game, everybody starts with 7 cards. So they have some weapons and some failures and a hazard, but they're not going to be able to do anything because no matter where they go, they're going to be able to be seen. So in phase 1, you can move, you can throw a hazard on somebody, or you can move the cat. We're not going to move the cat, they're going to move themselves. They will move, let's move to Victim Creek right now. They're going to move over to Murder Glen. Now on phase 2, if no one can see you, you can either try to kill Dr. Lucky if you're in the same room with him, or you can draw a card. They can be seen, so they can't do either. So now they move on to the yellow player. They're going to go ahead and move. Oh, then after that, Dr. Lucky moves to the next number. So now he's on 16. It's yellow player's turn. Here's their cards. They have a couple hazards in a house location and some trees. They have some weapons, but again, they're not going to be able to kill anybody because of being able to be seen. So they're going to go ahead and move over to the Lone Horse Ranch. They can't draw a card because that player can see them. So Dr. Lucky moves to 17. Now, if anybody has 3 cards or less, they would get to draw a card. Nobody's played any cards, so we can't do that. So now it will be blue player's turn. Let's see. They have these cards, so they have 3 hazards, some weapons, and some failures, lots of clovers. They're going to move. They're going to move down here to the Victim Creek. Again, they can be seen from here and from here, so they cannot draw a card. Dr. Lucky will now move to 18. It will be green player's turn. They're going to move over to the Cliffs of Anxiety. And because no one can see them, they're going to draw a card. So that's basically the only way you're going to get cards in your hand, is either if you have less than 3 and Dr. Lucky's there, or you're in a place where no one can see you. So they drew a card. They got this card. All right, now it's yellow. Dr. Lucky's going to move to 19. It's yellow player's turn. They are going to... Ooh, they're going to throw a hazard on somebody, I think. Maybe. Nope, they don't have those hazards. So they're just going to fly up to 9. No one can see them, and they're going to draw a card. They drew this weapon. All right, then we're going to go to a blue player. I'm trying to get somebody with Dr. Lucky so we can see a murder here, which here we go. All right, so Dr. Lucky moved there. Blue player is going to move down here with Dr. Lucky. Then on phase 2 of the game, they're going to try to kill Dr. Lucky. So what they're going to do is they are going to play a deadbolt. They're going to try to kill Dr. Lucky with a deadbolt. So they'll play the card. Now, each other player is going to have to try to play clovers equal to or higher to foil this. So the green player is going to look at their hand. It's early, so they'll just say, I'll play 1. So they'll play 1. Whoa, drop the card. So they're going to play 1. So that's 1 failure. Then the yellow player, let's see. They're going to play 1 as well. Maybe they will play 1 as well. It's an expensive one. It's a 3 weapon, so they'll play that. So this was foiled because there's 2 clovers. That's a 2 value weapon. So the player that played the weapon, which will be blue, he's going to put this card under his attack. And now next time he attacks, it will be 1 greater because he had an attack that failed. And the rest of the cards are discarded and out of the game. You do not shuffle through the deck if you run out of cards. You're just out. They're gone. So that was that. Then Dr. Lucky moves on to 21. Let's see. And it is green player's turn. All right. They are going to move. What number is this? 21. They're going to move down to the frog pond. And they're going to throw a hazard. Can they throw a hazard at somebody? They cannot, so they're just going to draw a card. Try to show you a hazard too, and then you'll see everything in the game mostly, except for moving the cat. But essentially, you move the cat, like this, and then that player couldn't see anybody. So I may not show you that. Then it will be, whose turn was that? Green. That was yellow. Players turn. Oh, I moved the wrong guy. Whoops. So yellow's going to move up there. So they could have actually done a hazard. Nope. All right, so it's blue player's turn. They cannot do anything, so they're going to move over to the Bog of Bones. And they're going to try to throw a hazard on somebody. And again, they cannot because they do not have the correct cards. So they only have the house and the trees. They would need Purple Mountains at this time. And Dr. Lucky's going to move to 23. It will be the green player's turn. And let's see. All right, so green player can do a hazard. So they're going to do that. So they're going to play this hazard, a 3, on the yellow player. So that means yellow player has to discard 3 clovers or give green player a card. So let's look at yellow player's hand. Let's see what we got here. Ooh, they have a 3 failure, but they're not going to do that. They're actually going to give up. They're going to give them this card because it's a 1. It's kind of garbage and it's an easy to kill hazard. So they're just going to give that to the green player. Then they'll be done. So then the green player is going to use this hazard and it's going to move. Go under here, and now they can move 2 spaces every time instead of 1. And then that was green player's turn. Dr. Lucky moves. And then we'll take the blue player's turn, and then we'll be done. So blue player is going to go here, and they'll draw a card. All right. So that you're going to essentially do that until either you run out of cards and somebody kills Dr. Lucky, or somebody does a murder attempt and the necessary amount of clovers aren't played. It's essentially the same as Kill Dr. Lucky, but they throw in the hazard piece, which is nice, and movement is much easier because you can just move to the next adjacent space as opposed to having to go down hallways and all that mess. And the airplanes, 2 other airplanes, are nice because it got rid of those cards in the original version where, say I could play a card for Comeback Trail and then I could move directly there. So the airplanes kind of cover that area. And this is a nice little feature too. When Dr. Lucky goes there, you can draw some cards. So that was the Island of Dr. Lucky for a 3-player setup. Let's go up to the top and see what we think about it. So that was the Island of Dr. Lucky. I think this may be my favorite one in the trilogy. I like Kill a lot. Save is nice. I've only played it once, so I need to get a couple more plays of that under my belt. But I really like this one, how you can use the hazard cards on other players to kind of whittle their hands of clovers to make your plot attempt maybe a little more successful when you're trying to kill Dr. Lucky later in the game. And I also liked that it took away having to walk up and down hallways to get to see if the room's adjacent or if you can look through a door. In this one, if you're next to a space, it's adjacent. Good to go. And I also like the cat. In the original version, there was a dog that kind of followed you around too that made it so if the dog could see you, you couldn't kill Dr. Lucky. But in this one, if you're on the same space as the cat distracts you from seeing spaces around you. So you could be an adjacent space right next to someone, but the cat is going to distract you. Maybe you're scared of it or you want to pet it or whatever that you do with cats. That's what it's going to do in the space. And then it's going to let other people kind of maneuver the cat if they're right next to you, and then they can kill Dr. Lucky even when you could see them. I really like that a lot. So the hazards and the cat are really nice, and the movement is much more clean, and I like it a lot better. And also, the artwork is better. The character cards have cool artwork on them, and the pawns, which, I mean, they're just like old school pawns, but they're nice and chunky and look pretty good. And the Dr. Lucky piece actually is probably my favorite Dr. Lucky piece because it's just a bigger pawn, but looks pretty slick and cool. And Kill Dr. Lucky and Save Dr. Lucky, they're just standees. So I kind of like the wooden pawns a little bit. I know there was a 20th anniversary or 19 and a half anniversary edition of Kill Dr. Lucky that's kind of like the old school art, which has some pawns too. I don't have that one. I have the one from like the 90s with the colored board and the standees. But either way, the gameplay is the same. But yes, the Island of Dr. Lucky is awesome. My favorite of the Dr. Lucky trilogy, and I highly recommend if you're a fan of Kill Dr. Lucky, go out and find this game, get it played, because not only is it a great game, it can play up to 8 players. And not many games that are actually fun outside of party games can play up to 8 players. So yeah, Island of Dr. Lucky, I highly recommend it. BGM accepted. And yeah, go check it out. Hope you enjoyed the review and keep gaming.